Hello, everyone. I am Katera. I am your trainer for this week. You are here today for the Vigorous Technical Assistance listening session. This session is optional, so we thank you for taking your time to join us today. In this session, since it is an informal agenda, we request that all requests go through our chat so we know be it requests for demos or just questions about the system itself, not policy questions. We request them going into the chat. If you have any questions specific about the HVRP policy, we request you reach out to your GOTR for that. That is not what this session is for. Today, I think what I'm going to do is begin the session with walking you through that registration request process again. I'm going to do this in the pre-prod environment this time around and just walk you guys through it, and you guys are all now welcome to join me in doing so. Elena, do you know if we can request access to the Vigorous system yet? Yes. And that is what I'm going to show you so you can walk through it with me and request your access. I'm going to be doing a lower environment. You guys have to do it in prod. I'm just doing it so I'm not creating a personal login.gov account and walking you through it with me. Just give me one moment as I share my screen. I believe you can all see my screen. If I can get a thumbs up by chance, would appreciate that. Okay, so hold on one second. Let me log in. We're going to not staging. My apologies. Got the wrong URL. Let's go to pre-prod. So it's a higher environment than what I demonstrated in. So here I am. I'm clicking the pre-prod. Your URL should more or less be the same. It should be cmp.dol.gov suite, and that is what you should be using. Jacob, if you can do me a favor and share that the prod link into the chat, that would be fantastic. So as you all know, I'm going in as a grantee user, so I'm going to go ahead and click here if you're a login.gov user. That click. There you go. And I had already logged into the test login.gov, so I'm just going to go ahead and continue. And oh, I already created an account. Was I already accepted? No, I wasn't. My apologies. Let me create a new one. Or actually, Jacob, can you also do me a favor and reject me in pre-prod? No, actually, I have to create a new one regardless. I have to show you guys the steps again. I apologize. I didn't realize I tested it out in pre-prod. Just going to do this really quickly. Feel free to ignore me. Okay, so we're going to go back here, go to login.gov user. I'm going to create an account really quickly. I'm just going to do paula.katera1@yahoo.com. Hopefully you all have a login.gov account already, so you shouldn't be doing this create process with me, but I'm just doing this for the sake of training only. Paula.katera1. Go ahead, confirm my email address, and let me use my password. Copy, paste, continue. And once again, I advise you not to be using backup codes for your actual professional login.govs, and even a personal one if you had one. Let me just save this really quickly so I can use it for testing purposes. Okay, so I had saved it. I've put in a save place, continue, agree and continue. Here we are. First thing I'm going to see is the login.gov rules of behavior. We've already gone through this together in the training, so I'm going to go ahead and agree. So update my profile. You need to update your name. So in my case, I don't have a last name, so there is none for me to input, but you do at the very least need to update your first name and last name into the system. This is what your goder will see when they see your registration request. So in my demo, Jacob needs to know that it is indeed me that is requesting access. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this. Once you submit, you will be brought to the DOL homepage, which is also called the Manage Application Access page. In this page, currently for you guys, it is going to say VETS Case Management, or not VETS. It's going to have this VETS logo that the VETS Case Management System has, but it is going to say VETS Grantee Reporting System, and then with VGRS in parentheses. We request that you make sure you read it because currently in production, they look too much alike that we understand if there's confusion and you accidentally request access to the wrong one. But if you're not submitting a USARA claim, you should not have access to VCMS. That's case management system. So therefore, please confirm that you are requesting access to VETS Grantee Reporting System. Starting next week, it should look like what you see on your screen on my demo. This is going to be pushed up into the prod environment, and we're making it distinctly different from VCMS. So once you find VETS Grantee Reporting System, you can go ahead and click register. Yes, Elena, that's exactly what I just covered. It's different for you guys than it is for me because next week, this is what you're going to see. If you request access next week, it's going to change to this card, this design. And as you can see, the subtext is different too. So we wanted to make sure that we double down that this is for HVRP grantees. So there is no mistake on requesting access to VCMS. So and a thing to know, I'm not sure if I went over this in the training, but this help text, if you click on help, just explains what VGRS is, how to submit a registration request, what happens after you submit a registration request, which is all topics that we've gone over in training for sure, but there is a PDF document that you can save or just review if you wanted to. It's just something to go over if you would like. Oops, that went too far. I shouldn't have done that. But here we go. Now we're back at the home page. I'm going to go ahead and hit register. When you register, it should say register for VGRS or VGRS user, the name that I input in the CMP, and my related login.gov email. So the position title, I'm just going to say coordinator. That's going to be my office number. And if I wanted to, I can do this for mobile. 11. There you go. And then organization name, I'm going to go ahead and stick with the one that we've been doing for our training. So Alliance to Restore the Republic. I'm going to go ahead and pick one of these. Let's see, 560, 84. Okay. So, and then I'm going to request access only if you have more than one grantee organization and grant record that you need access to. Should you be doing what I'm doing right now, I'm going to, in this example, request access to the second grant number associated with Alliance to Restore the Republic as well. I also need access to the grant number 24560 HP, and then I think it's 00084. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that. And that is how you create a registration request. And once again, whenever your registration request is either, regardless if it's approved or rejected, you will receive an email that informs you of that. I'm going to go into the other Yelp Mail account so you can see I believe we had it both a rejection and an acceptance. Let's see. I think it's this one. Yeah, so the first one we went and did a rejection. So if you receive a rejection, you should receive an email that's more or less that should be this one. Your registration request for VETS Grantee Reporting System, VGRS, has been rejected. The following comments were provided, and this is whatever your goder wrote in the rejection box. And then when you're approved, it's going to say this: your registration request for VETS Grantee Reporting System has been approved. And it's very simple, very clear cut. Do we have any questions about the registration?
I do, actually. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
How long after we register for the VGRS will we receive the email?
It's up to your goder. It depends when they had time to go in and accept your request.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Let me see.
Tara,
Yes.
along those lines, I just wanted to reinforce that if you requested access to VGRS sometime in the last 3 days, to please check with your goder to see if they've been able to approve your request. Especially if you go back to this page that Katera is showing now and register has been grayed out.
Because you can only have one registration request, and that is why we ask in that single registration request you also request any additional grantee organizations and or grant records that you need access to. The system does not allow multiple requests. Do we have any other requests for demonstration? Jessica, so, oh, okay, see, it's already been addressed. But Jessica had asked, I apologize, I missed day 2 of training. Does each user need to register for VGRS or just a primary contact? And for that, Nicole answered aptly, please work with your coder to decide on what is best for your organization. Because as once again, we do have that grant limit of 4 grantees per grant record. Therefore, adequate planning would be necessary. But everyone that does require access to VGRS has to do so via their own login.gov account. You can't have the whole organization request something as one singular, from one singular account. Brenna, can you show us where to enter plan goals and financials? Yes. Jacob, can you do me a favor and accept my request and add me to a grant? It's gonna take a minute. Actually, I can.
Yeah,
let me.
Just 1 second.
Okay, I was gonna clear it and log into the other account.
No worries. We can get you into something quick.
Thank you. So just give us one moment, Brenna, while I get the access to do so. With Jacob doing that, I can show you guys my approval. Oh, I have to change the email again. So here we go. You can see he went ahead and approved me. I'm going to go ahead and just need to refresh this page. So when you're approved, once again, the gray out is going to update. It says you already have an approved registration request, because you can only register once by when you're pending and or you're approved into the system. Once you're in the system, you can just get the accesses as you need it. I've mentioned this before. I'm going to mention it again. This we went over this day one on training. You can check your user profile to see if you're provisioned access to the correct records. Right now, you can see he went ahead and added me to the organization. You must have an organization before you're added to a grant because they are related to each other. The grants only populate members of the associated grants grantee organization. Therefore, this membership, this is also just a refresher for all the VETS staff on the call. The membership for the organization must come first before you provision grant access. So I'm going to go ahead, just click on the grantee organization record, just so we see we have the record, and can go ahead and click members, and you can see I have other people on this as well. Let us close this window, come back to my record, and my user profile has been updated with a grant record. I can also see evidence of me being on, oops, wrong. Did not mean to close that. Let's just go back in. You can see evidence of me being added to a grant because we see my grant. See one of the grants listed, so I'm just going to go ahead and click that. And you ask for planned goals and financials. So planned goals is managed by your coder. Currently, it's the national office that input all goals, but it is something that should something change, you guys submit a formal request to change your goals, update your goals for whatever reason, that is going to be managed by your coder, and therefore I do not have a manage goals option or related action item here. But I can go in and peruse it as a grantee user to see, to confirm that are these the goals that we requested or are they not? And in this case, we're going to pretend that they are indeed the correct ones. And since this is a year 22 grant, which is what you can see in this grant identifier, that is why you see the episodically homeless measures. For anybody that has a 2023 grant or later, you will not be seeing those. You will instead see cost per placement measures. And then you also ask for the financials, which means budget. So we're going to go ahead and click that. So here, this is a module in which you as a grantee user can manage, and that is why you see manage budget and as a related action item. And I'm going to go ahead and click that. And if we wanted to, currently it tabs across to the right. For user input, we may potentially, based off feedback, actually I'm not sure if we may, but it does. It tabs to the right as it should, so I can jump from one tab to the other, so I can begin the PY 2024 goals if I wanted to. I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to say we wanted to remain consistent, have the same goals across, so I'm just going to go and copy them across. I hear someone was on mic. Do you guys have anything to say? Or unmuted? Good say. I'm going to go ahead and input that, but because the first quarter has not been completed, I'm not going to update the actuals for our budget. So I'm going to go ahead and hit, but we do know we are at 215,000. I'm going to submit that. And once I submit it, you see that the 2024 has been updated, and I have updated the PY 2024 here as well. Okay, so I think I saw another request for, if you do not have a grantee organization, once you get access to VGRS, should you contact your coder? Yes. I registered a few days ago. The register button's grayed out, but my coder did not get the request suggestions. At the time of our first day of training, day 1, we said that you should inform your coder that you did submit the registration request, so therefore they can go in and approve you.
Kat,
Yes.
we had a question. How will we be able to tell our PY23 from our PY24 when we start to enter participants, or do we enter them all into the same area? Would you mind demoing like the tabular and show off kind of the PY enrolled filters so that they can see how to like look at specific ones?
Yep. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So this is the tabular view. I'm not sure if you noticed, but originally, let me just refresh again. Start off on the page. We're in the participants module. I'm going to scroll down. And right here, right above this blue line, we have show tabular. So everything, participants, all information for the grant is collected in the record across the period of performance. There is no separation. There's no need for it because you
Kat,
input the dates specifically. Yes.
sorry, your screen's not being shared.
Oh, did it stop sharing?
It did. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind
Oh,
throwing it back up.
so sorry. We're sharing it now. I apologize.
No worries. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay, so starting back to participants, let me move this over. Okay, so we're back in the participants module. I'm gonna go ahead and click show tabular. Show tabular exists right above this blue bar, right above this section box is what I call it. And then you just go and click show tabular. And in the enrollments tab, this is what Jacob had mentioned, how we have filters to navigate when your participants PY had started. So here, if I only want to see the 2022, I can go ahead and do that. There we go. So this is because everything within the grant record on VGRS is contained, displays and contains all information across the period of performance. So that is why I can see 2022 grant information if I wanted to. I can see grantees from 2023. And I don't think in this particular example we have, for this grant record, we have any 2024s. I don't think I did that, but we can also see 2024 if we wanted to. And I can create one as well. But when we did the creation process on day 2 of the trainings, if you guys notice in the enrollments form, let me find one that is not currently enrolled. The very first question they ask you in the enrollments form is the date. And here we're just going to go create a new enrollment, and in this form, the service start date. Therefore, you can have participants from 2022, 2023, 2024 all within the system, and the system itself will manage that and collect the data to accurately show it within your outcomes and therefore score you appropriately based off of the date that you input. Andrea, can 2 grantees be inputting information at the same time? Yes. Do we want to go through the process of creating a new enrollment? Or is there something else anybody would like to see demonstrated?
Yeah, there are a couple of questions in here that maybe you can answer. Maybe not necessarily demonstrations, but there's a question about, are we able to enter data in a way similar to this view, as in a list table of participants, or do we need to enter data in an individual view?
Unfortunately, it must be entered in the individual view as the system is created currently. If there's a need for that table view, potentially we can create that down the line, but as VGRS had been created and is currently available to you all, it is specifically in these form views that we have.
We have a question about, is there an import feature for data?
Currently, no, and on its honestly, that might be too complicated to do because we wouldn't know exactly what your source of truth is for that import to make it work. Otherwise, it could just become incomprehensible because we could have one data designed in one set and your data might be designed differently, and when we do an import it could just break. So currently there is no demand for that and does not seem to be a future venture for VGRS.
Okay. We have a question. My goater, let's see, did not get registration requests. Thoughts? I can answer that one real quick. The system isn't currently set up to provide a notification to your goater that you have submitted a registration request. I believe Katera covered this in the training. Once you submit your request, you'll also want to send an email to your goater to let them know that you've completed the request for access, and they will need to go into the system to search for your name and grant you access, as well as assign you to the appropriate grant.
Yeah. And for all the goaters on the call, remember the approvals process is first review, and if the approval warrants, if the review warrants approval, you approve. Then you assign membership to the grantee organization. Then you assign grantee user access to the associated or the requested grant record. You have to do grantee organization first before you can find your participant to input them in the grant record. So be sure to note that. Be sure to have that in your mind whenever you approve. I saw Kat's question. Do you want to ask her question? The last one, will future updates include more than 4 users?
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Oh.
So we haven't made any decisions yet about whether or not, and it looks like Jacob has answered that, but we currently haven't made any decisions as to whether or not there will be more than 4 users available per grant record at this point. If you need more people to have access to your grant record, please discuss options with your goater.
Yeah.
Kat has asked, will future updates include a save function? I'm not quite sure what she means by that.
Yeah, so every form has a submit to save. So although we say submit, it means submit to save. So it saves it into your record. It doesn't necessarily mean submit straight to VETS. It keeps in your record. So let me get out of here.
So Kat, with
yeah.
that, my concern is with as everyone on the call probably knows, you can start putting in information and then you may not have everything, or you may get pulled into something else or a fire you have to take care of. So right now there's not a way to save what you've inputted and then come back to it to complete the form is my concern.
That is definitely understandable. We may potentially create just a save function to do so. I suppose it depends on the need and all the feedback that you give us once you are all in the system. So definitely something that we'll note today based off of this discussion, and then just give it a few weeks to see how you guys are all faring and see if that is a use case or not that actually does occur. Because for the most part, once you're familiar with the fields, it's a pretty easy breeze through. It's just like one of the few ones, such as the not the SBA, the living wage calculator, having to go in for each county to figure out what the number is and the associated number of kids or adults or I don't think the adults, but the associated number of kids with the participant, and then inputting that. That's like probably the one that takes you out of it the most, takes more time and more thinking to plan ahead for. But other than that, like you can put a pause on training, you can put a pause on service. I can show you guys. You can pause on your services received. This is 2023. I can do that. Let's create a new one. On your services received, your enrollment just simply wouldn't count until you input at least one of these two, the training or services received, and you can pause from exiting because there is no, we understand that you're not going to be exiting the same day you're inputting the enrollment. So 8 is open. It's just like everything 5 and up is required, almost. Go ahead, Angela. I see that you raised your hand.
Yes. So my question is, you can enter data on a participant and
Yeah.
save it prior to formal submission so that the form can be modified, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So then my second part of this is, it is not unusual for me to enter data, have a person not be co-enrolled until towards the end of the quarter. So with what you're describing, that the form has to be completely filled out, does that mean if I have all the information on a person, but I do not have them co-enrolled, I have to put no and then go back into the form and change it to yes, or can I leave it blank?
So declined means, so no is what you put for future dates, and right now currently there is no requirement for the date co-enroll. That was something that was brought up before we went into production, that this may be a possible issue because of, I believe, something policy related, and therefore this is not required. You can always come back to input this date.
But if I know, but I understand what you're saying. I think I'm trying, but what I'm saying is that, let's say we enroll someone in July, and we're working on getting them co-enrolled with IDES, which means there's a lot of logistics involved in setting up a meeting and making sure the person gets there, et cetera. Okay. So I input all the data that I have. I know that the person didn't decline, and I know that we're working on having it done. Can I
Yeah. So no
complete all the
to
data?
having
Oh, go ahead.
declined.
I'm sorry.
No. So that's why we do have this tooltip for this question in particular. But you said IDS. I don't know what IDS is because it's not one of our current enrollments listed here.
Okay. So, so American Job Center is the same for Illinois as IDES.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry about that. Yeah, I'm
No,
sorry.
it's
The
okay.
terminology is a little bit different, but it's the same. Yes.
Okay. But that's the thing. So if they did not decline, you can just hit no, because that's what it's saying. If they declined, then it's yes, and there is no need for a date. If they didn't decline, you can hit no, and then whenever you fill out from 1 to 5 or 6 and 7, depending if you have trainings or services received at that point or not. And then you can submit the form, return at any time, and input that
Okay, perfect.
enrollment.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I
So this
appreciate
is
that.
not a requirement in order to submit to SAFE. But it was something that was brought up earlier on. At one point, this was required. So I'm really glad that you pointed it out because I got a chance to bring it up. But yes, or
Kat, we had a request to show us how to create a performance report again.
oh, okay, we can go ahead and do that. Let me cancel out of here and close and close. Okay, so what we're going to do in your grant record, you go to the performance reports module. So in the performance reports module, you can see you have the related action item of manage reports, and that's what you're going to need in order to submit a performance report. Just quickly eyeballing it and see that we already submitted a 2023 quarter 4. So I'm going to pretend that we are trying to submit a 2024 quarter 1 run right now. So that's what I'll go off of. manage, we're going to go ahead and create a performance report. Going to select 2024, quarter 1. And once again, you cannot submit a future quarter's performance report. So if I go and hit quarter 2, it is not going to allow me because based on today's date, it is quarter 1. Therefore, I can only submit up till quarter 1. I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. And I'm going to go and click my performance report record here. And it's going to open up a new tab. Once I do so, I can confirm that this is the correct performance report. This is our short grant number. This is the year that I designated as our reporting year, and this is our reporting quarter. Since this is not a monthly report, we do not see the NA, nor do we see a month that is not March, June, September, December. So therefore, we're all good there. You can also see the reporting period broken down here. We see our grant live view, our submission status, the link back to our grant, who it was created by and when, along with instructions, which is fairly standard across the application. Just as a refresher, goals, budget, participant, outcomes are all exactly the same as it was in the performance report at the time of submission. If somebody went back and added participants or updated our goals or budget, it is not going to reflect in this report at all. And that is why we request if your report is ever rejected, you go or returned, you have to go back and create an entirely new performance report. So that way your data reflects accurate new data. I didn't mean to click outcomes, I meant to click narrative, so we're going to go ahead and do that. You must complete your narrative module in order to submit your performance report. I can show you guys the validation error if you guys want of a non-started narrative module, or I can just jump into the narrative itself. I'm not sure exactly what the need and full was. Can you show us to create a TPR again so we can create one for last year and one for Andrea, a thing to point out is that you will not be creating a TPR for 2023 at all in VGRS. It is 2024 and forward only. So that is something to note. Gonna go ahead and click narrative and manage narrative. I apologize. So this is the form in which you need the least amount of information in order to submit to save. In this one, you have to input your service address before you can have your performance report officially, or your narrative officially created. So I'm going to go ahead and just type in 1234 Main Street in Second, I don't know, Alaska. I'm really bad at these, I apologize. So I'm going to show you that like none of these other fields are required to save. So I will demonstrate that right now. I'm going to go ahead and submit this. The address is, if I try to submit that without inputting the address, it would have given me validation errors, and I can demonstrate that if you guys are interested. But in the meantime, I'm going to go back into my narrative. We're going to go in and we're going to say we need to complete this today. And therefore, you have to input some achievements. So I'm going to say achievements are as follows. Activities are as follows. And in this reporting quarter, we met our goals for 4 of our measures. For our placement rate, we goal partially met our goal, so for 3 of them, so I need to input some answers for these 3 while we didn't meet the goals at all for enrollments. And if you guys recall back when I was demonstrating the participants module, I had no enrollments for quarter 1 of 2024, therefore it makes complete sense why the goal was not met. So here we're gonna go. Is this score related to a continuing issue from previous quarters? Yes. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm just going to input something, explanation here, and I'm just going to copy that for the rest of them. Our episodic homeless placement rate did not meet the goal, and you can see it goes back 1 quarter, so therefore this is yes. And explanation here. And for the sake of training, just because I'm not sure exactly what logically you guys would have in here, I'm inputting very nonsensical answers, but do be vigilant and make sure that you're not going to lazy routes like I am right now. Okay, so you can see it went back multiple. That's why I said yes to it being related to a continuing issue from previous quarters. And then now we're going to jump into our goal not met measure, and you can see it hasn't been meeting across. How am I passing some then if I'm not passing this? I don't understand. Okay, is the score related to a continuing issue from previous quarter? Clearly, yes. Explanation here, 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 and here. Okay, so we're gonna go here. Unlike the first time yesterday that I went through a personnel module, we actually have a person and we have data, so we're good here. We're gonna say that this is all correct. And I'm gonna go ahead, does the total percentage of time charged for each position match the personnel time allocations in the most recently approved budget? And we're gonna say yes. And therefore I don't have to explain that. If we say no, then I am required to explain something. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep it that way. And then for financial review, a thing to note is that you must have data in your current year. And we request that if you're not having any funding amount in previous years, you can just go ahead and input 0. So we're going to say maybe from year 2, we still had 5,000 left over, and therefore we used that up. But then for year 3, we used the I don't know, allocated 25,000 for this first quarter. Does the report expenditure for each program year match the FFR? You can hit yes and you don't have an explanation box, or you hit no and you need to explain any discrepancy. So for this case, we're just going to pretend no, and this is the explanation. I'm going to go ahead and submit that. This time around, I made sure I answered every single question. So when I submit this to VETS, it should go without issue. So that is what we're going to test here. So we're going to go ahead and go into our summary. The summary is where you go to see the submit to VETS related action button. So that's what I'm going to go ahead, go and do, submit to VETS staff. The instructions, review the checklist below to ensure this performance report is ready for submission to VETS staff. Once you have confirmed all items are addressed, click submit to proceed with submission. So our submission checklist is confirmed narrative entries are accurate and complete. Ensure personnel section of narrative describes any discrepancies in number or types of positions from your latest approved budget narrative. Verify the expenditure data on the SF 425 Federal Financial Review report, aligns with the funding year expenditure data provided in the narrative. Remember to certify your FFRs in the Payment Management System, HHS, PMS for accurate processing. So we're going to go ahead and say all of that has been met. We're going to go ahead and click on submit. We get this pop-up box. It wants to confirm that submitting it to VETS staff is indeed what you want to do. So we're just going to go ahead and read this in full for once. Once this performance report has been submitted, its data will be locked. You cannot create a new report for the same reporting period unless this report is returned by VETS staff. Submission cannot be undone. Are you sure you wish to proceed? We are sure about our performance report. We're going to go ahead and click yes. And then you see this action completed. You see that the screen refreshed and it says submitted now. Therefore, if I go to my narrative module, I do not have the related action button, just like I didn't have in the summary module. So now it is up to VETS staff to determine if the report is fine or to return it. Do we have any questions about the performance report, or if there's anything that you would like to see? Is there a way to print our answers from the performance report prior to submitting? Currently, not like one-stop shop to have all of the data exported, but you can, like for the narrative, for example, do the right click and print option or something, while in outcomes you can export your table if that's what you're asking for, but we don't have something that does everything at once. That is something that we have later on the as a consideration for later in the backlog, but nothing right now. Surrounding needed to the narrative. Where would you go to accessibility to make updates? So that is why we say you have to make sure you have your narrative completed before you make the updates, because you you have to make sure you do not submit it until your narrative is completed in full. Once it is submitted, even if the report has been returned to you, you are currently unable to update the narrative module at all. So you would have to wait for it to be returned, then create an entirely new performance report record. So we ask you make sure that everything is true and correct and there is no additional data that needs to be input before you submit. Do we need to place all personnel tab on Vigorous? I believe if it matches your related document, I forgot which document it was, right here, what does it say? If it matches your budget, if there are personnel that's charging to the grant and therefore are a part of your budget, yes, you do need to include them in Vigorous. Most submit every 3 months, correct? Unless otherwise asked for very good or correct. Yes, Andrea. The performance reports are expected to occur once every quarter, at the end of each quarter, and only unless your quarter requests otherwise, you do not need to do 12 performance reports a year. So why am I getting the not allowed error? I thought we were able to request today. Can you share a screenshot by chance? William, I need to change my title. Is there an edit button? Have you already been approved, William, into the application? You have been approved. So that is something that you can actually request the Vigorous team to do, because we need to go into UAM to do that. I'm not sure if you have the ability to do so. You can, we can test it out right now, actually. Let's go to profile. So by clicking this, okay, I don't have the ability, you can see. I don't have the option to do so. So yeah, so that is something you're going to have to request. Send an email to the VGRS@gwall.gov team, inform them that you need to update your position title, and that's something we will have to do via the user access management application on the CMP platform, unfortunately. Andrea, have you been approved? Have you submitted a registration request? And if so, have you been approved? Because I'm trying to remember if 403 is before the registration request or after. If we have a grant for last year too, we create the report and then enter all our clients from 2023. That's not a question I'm sure about. I think that is something that your GOTR will be coming back to you at a later time. So Adriana, have you, one, submitted your registration request, and two, have you been approved into the system? I have not gotten emails or anything. Have you informed your GOTR that you submitted a registration request? Because first, your GOTR needs to know that you did that in order to look for you. As it currently is designed, the system does not provide GOTRs with notifications of registration. My GOTR said they can't see my request. They potentially either don't have access to the system yet, or your GOTR has requested the wrong level of access. So Elena, please let us know who your GOTR is so we can check in on that. Elena, I'm sorry, I'm really bad at pronunciation. Not gotten any emails or anything. I hit register and it took me directly to the there. You hit register, okay. Jacob, can you check if Adriana's request went through by chance? Able to make edits to the report before submission. You are able to make edits to the report before submission. Let me close this one out. If I close this out, I should still be in the performance report module. You can see that here I have the singular one in draft. This one was created a month ago, so I can go ahead and show you that I'm still able to edit it because it remains in the draft form, draft status. So I can go into narrative. I can even go in and update the reporting period, even though it's been so long. But you can see currently it has no data in. I can go ahead and update that if I wanted to, or I can even go ahead and update the performance, the reporting period. Maybe for this one, it was supposed to be quarter 2, not quarter 3. Let me go ahead and update that, hit submit. So as long as it's in draft form, draft status, you are eligible to update your performance report for as long as you need to. It should not be submitted until you're 100% sure that it is ready. That is why we have those 2 confirmation screens. I was told to send a request email address for help. Sarah, what do you mean? Oh, okay. So you previously mentioned something to Adriana. That is the message I received as well when trying to log in. Register, waiting to hear back from the help desk. Okay, so if you submitted an email to the VGRS@DOL.gov email, we will get to that soon. As we're able to, because we do have an influx of emails currently. But we will get to that and we will address your situation. But please be sure anytime you guys are sending an email to us, you have as much information as possible. Have any screenshots if possible, just so we're able to cover our bases and make sure that we're considering every possible reason for the issue so we can address it as soon as possible. Because if we only have like one very vague statement, having to research that becomes tough when we don't have any more information. Can you please repeat the email address to request VGRS access registration? Yep, I can go ahead and do that. We're going to create a new account. Let's close this out. Oh, I need to clear out my cookies. So give me 1 second. Setting, privacy and security, delete, delete. So let me confirm it's been refreshed. Yep. Okay. So what change can I do to my email now? Okay, there we go. So that's the email I'm going to use. Let's go into CMP staging. So I'm going to go ahead, click I agree. We're going to go in login.gov user. I have to create a new account in order to be able to demonstrate this, so please do forgive me. Secretary@yahoo.com. Gonna read and accept. We're gonna submit that. Then close this. Brush this. There you go. So if you're creating a new account, you do have to go through the process. Let me copy my password. You. So once more, please do not use backup codes as your sole means of authentication. That is only for the sake of this because it takes too long to set up my authenticator for a single test or demonstration. There we go, save that, those backup codes. So I've already copied them, I've saved them into my file. So I'm gonna go ahead and confirm that I've put my backup codes in a safe place. I'm going to continue, agree and continue. So it's gonna redirect me back into the CMP environment, which is the case management platform on DOL. I'm going to agree and continue to the login.gov rules of behavior. The first screen you're going to see is this update profile screen. I'm going to update it with my name. Submit. And then this is a different environment, so the cards look even less than what you should be seeing in prod. But and once again, a reminder, currently for you guys as it is today, you're going to see VETS logo. You're not going to see the HVRP logo. Next week, if you wait until next week, you will see what this, more or less what this shows. I think a little more centered vertically because this looks a little high. But you're going to see the HVRP logo, and the little sideline text is going to say allows HVRP grant recipients to create and submit performance reports. So what you're going to see is going to be today, it's going to be this VETS logo. It's going to say VETS Grantee Reporting System, and I think something like allows grant recipients to submit performance report, create and submit, so without the HVRP or something. So once you confirm you found VGRS, and what you can do is just simply Control F to find VGRS or Vigorous. Go and click on Register. Once you click on Register, you are going to be requested to input your position title. In this case, I'm just going to select the first one. You're not required to input your phone numbers. That is entirely up to you. I'm just going to put it for the sake of this demo. And organization name. I'm going to pick my organization, which is the Alliance to Restore the Republic. And then grant number, and we're going to pick 99. I'm going to go ahead and request access to my second grant as well, 22560. Okay. I also need access to the grant number of 22560 HB 898989. And so this is, so my GOTR, after approving me, is aware that I also need to be input into this grant record as well, and will do so accordingly. So I'm going to go ahead and click submit. Once you've clicked submit, you should be returned back to this menu screen, and in this menu, your register should be grayed out. And when you hover over it, it informs you you already have an open registration request. So until I am provisioned that request, it will continue to say open. If I've been rejected, this gray out turns into the same blue as this help box is. And if it's approved, it remains grayed out. It just says you already have an approved registration request, because you are only allowed to create an account into Vigorous once, but you can be provisioned additional grants and/or grant records if you had informed them in the notes section. In future, down in the future, you can always just like request your GOTR, because we, like say 2025 performance year begins, you can be like, hey, we also have this additional grant. I need access to that one as well, and they can provision it accordingly. So that is the registration request demo, and we are currently at time. Thank you all for joining today's call. Will we receive day 2 and day and 3 of training recordings? Yes. You won't be receiving it directly. It will be updated on the VETS Grantee Reporting System webpage on dol.gov that Nicole had linked previously over the next week or so. But thank you all for joining today's calls. See you guys maybe on next Thursday's session. Thank you.